Everyone around you is posting birthdays, meals, mirrors, moments. Your phone has hundreds of photos on it, maybe thousands, and not one of them has ever been shared. Someone asks you why you don't post and you pause because honestly, you don't have a simple answer. You just don't want to. And somehow that is enough of a reason for everyone to make it their problem. Your coworker says you're mysterious. Your family says you're antisocial. That one friend says you must have something to hide. And the internet has decided that if you're not visible, you don't fully exist. But here is what none of them understand. You are not hiding. You never were. You are just one of the few people left who knows the difference between living a moment and performing one. And psychology, actual science, has a lot to say about why you are wired this way. And none of it is what people assume. Here is the first thing researchers found. In 2019, a study published in Computers in Human Behavior discovered that people who are highly self-aware, the ones who think deeply about who they are and what they value, are significantly less likely to seek external validation through social media. Psychologist Roy Baumeister spent decades studying the human need for self-esteem and found something that explains you completely. There are two ways people build a sense of self: from the outside in, through likes, comments, and other people's reactions, or from the inside out through their own values, their own standards, their own quiet knowing. You build from the inside out. That is not a flaw. That is actually the harder, rarer thing to do. Here is where it gets deeper. In 1954, psychologist Leon Festinger introduced social comparison theory, the idea that human beings are wired to measure themselves against others. Social media did not create that instinct. It just turned it into a 24-hour machine. Every post is a measuring stick. Every like is a score. Every photo is a small audition for approval. Somewhere in you, something always knew that game was rigged, so you never played it. But here's the part nobody talks about. That instinct, the one that keeps your face off a screen, it did not start when you got your first phone. For most people who feel this way, it started much earlier. Maybe you were 7 or 8 years old, and you learned, not through words but through experience, that being seen came with a cost. Maybe someone in your home had an opinion about everything: the way you looked, the way you smiled in photos, the way you stood. And their opinion was never just an opinion. It landed like a verdict. So you learned to step back, to stay just slightly out of frame. Not because you were ashamed of who you were, but because visibility meant exposure. And exposure meant judgment. And judgment, back then, came from the people who were supposed to love you most. That child is still in you. When someone asks why you don't post, that child already knows the answer. Safety lives in privacy. Now, here's the honest question, and I want you to sit with it genuinely. Is your relationship with photos coming from a place of strength or a place of protection? Because those are two very different things. If you don't post because you genuinely do not need an audience to feel whole, that is clarity. That is a boundary built from self-awareness. But if you don't post because somewhere deep down you are afraid of being seen and found lacking, that is a wall. And walls keep out the wrong people, yes, but they also keep out the right ones. Only you know which one is true for you. The fact that you are willing to ask the question already says something important. For most of you, though, this was never about fear. Psychologist Carl Rogers believed that the healthiest human beings are those who developed what he called an internal locus of evaluation, a compass that points inward, not outward. Most people scroll through their feed asking the world, "Am I enough?" You already answered that question, and you did it without posting a single photo. Here's the truth that society will never say out loud. Choosing privacy is not the same as choosing invisibility. You are not less real because you are not on a screen. You are not less connected because you do not perform connection. You are not cold, you are not hiding, and you are not broken. You are someone who decided, consciously or not, that your face, your life, and your quiet moments belong to you. Not to an algorithm, not to a comment section, not to people who would scroll past in 3 seconds. In a world that sells visibility as the highest form of self-expression, you chose something rarer. You chose to simply exist without an audience. And that is not something wrong with you. That is one of the last genuinely free things a person can do. If this felt like someone finally said what you could never explain, leave a comment. I read every single one. Your quiet is not emptiness, it is yours.